Crypto is for everyone, not just rocket scientists, venture capitalists, and high IQ developers. Welcome to The Agenda, a Cointelegraph podcast that explores the promises of crypto, blockchain, and Web3, and how regular-ass people level up with technology. Welcome to The Agenda. I'm Ray Salmon, Head of Markets at Cointelegraph.
And I'm Jonathan DeYoung. I'm the Senior Copy Editor at Cointelegraph.
This is our first episode, and we have an especially interesting episode to kick things off: sex work and crypto.
And to help us break down this topic, because, to be quite frank, neither Ray nor I have firsthand experience in the sex work industry, we have a very special guest. You may recognize her name because she had sort of a flirt with fame recently. Her name is Ellie Ray, and I don't want to spoil her story too much. I'm going to let her share it because it is very interesting and enticing. But she was an ICU nurse turned adult content creator. She had kind of a run-in with some of her coworkers at the hospital as well as management, and she ended up having to leave and founding a company called Wetspace.
Wetspace is a crypto-based adult content platform and marketplace where performers can upload pictures and video and also connect with their followers, all while being paid in cryptocurrency. And what sets Wetspace apart from other platforms is creators can take control of their finances, royalties, and other important aspects of their career.
And so that's one of the many, many things that we discuss with Ellie, including the general relationship between crypto and sex work, why banks dislike both cryptocurrency and porn stars, how NFTs may be able to empower adult entertainers, and why cryptocurrency can promote financial inclusion. Among many, many other topics, this is definitely one that you're going to want to listen to.
Now, as a warning to those of you in the presence of younger listeners or folks who might be at work, you should know that this episode discusses adult consensual activities, the type typically reserved for the bedroom, shower, kitchen sink, and other places.
That said, here's our interview with Ellie Ray. Welcome to The Agenda, Ellie. Thank you so much for joining us, and we're very happy to have you. For those who are not familiar with who you are, could you give us just a brief, like speed dating, couple of sentences about who you are, and then maybe why you were quickly catapulted into the mainstream consciousness last year?
So my name is Ellie Ray, and I actually, a couple years ago, was an ICU nurse who was working in Boston. During the pandemic, I started to make online videos with craft beer, and I had a pretty decent little following that started to recommend that I should start an OnlyFans. And I wasn't really aware what that was, but ultimately, long story short, got into the adult industry and started creating content on that platform. And I was working as a nurse at the same time and going to school, and some nurses that I was working with actually found my content and exposed me to management, and I ended up losing my job because of it. And so that's really how I propelled into the adult industry, because then I just started doing this full time and it kind of became my thing. The media got wind of my news, what had happened to me, and that story broke out, and I kind of was morphed into this role of advocacy for the sex work industry. And it wasn't something I tried to do, but I just think people started to kind of look up to me as an advocate for, especially, being wronged on my own. And so that was my journey, propelled into the adult industry. But outside of that, I was in the Navy at 17. I'm a wife, a mom. I've been married for 20 years. And yeah, I was just a regular hockey mom before all this. And now I do this full time.
Can I ask what the experience was like, kind of being propelled from a position where your patients may know you, your coworkers may know you, your kids' hockey team may know you, but then the whole media now is talking about you? What was that experience like for you?
Well, I mean, it was really surreal, because in the beginning, that was my worst fear. And it like, especially when the nurses had brought, to management what I was doing, I was devastated. I had a very, very different image on my unit, very much professional, very educated. And so this definitely tarnished that. And I felt that through the way people treated me. So it was very, very hard just initially, people even finding out what I was doing, much less, like you stated, it was always a worry that people in public may recognize, may something be out. But then, of course, when the story broke out and the whole globe knew about the story, it was almost like a moment of like kind of take a deep breath. It's like, okay, this is it. This is your new, and you're going to have to like somehow, like you already know there's a stigma, like you already know what people think of you the minute they hear what you're doing. You have to work very hard to put the real you in front of that. And so that's what I really started to, I think, catch the attention of people is that I really didn't fit that mold or that stigma that they thought about me. The more interviews and the more speaking I did. And so I think that's when it got actually a little bit easier for me because it was like, okay, good. Like people can see like the real me. Like I'm just a regular girl. Like this is very much I'm not all the terrible things that people think about people in this industry. So at that point, I feel like it got a little bit easier because I could showcase who I was. But it was very, very difficult to even just, it was like a private side of my life that, my husband, I didn't tell anyone about this. And so it got out very quickly.
How did you get into OnlyFans? Was it like, were you looking for career change, or this whole thing just kind of took off as a hobby and then you realize, okay, I can monetize this, and it just kind of took off? Was it kind of an incidental thing, or did you plan to transition into a different line of work?
Well, I think starting with Instagram and doing like the beer reviews and stuff, I had a large male audience. And so there, I would be lying if I said there wasn't some sex appeal used there with, where there be lower cut necklines, etc., for that kind of thing. So there definitely was already attention coming to me sexually in that way, which was playful and what is what it is. During the pandemic, everything was locked down, and my husband and I have always been fairly young at heart. We like to go out, have a drink, have fun, and we weren't able to do that. And so this came kind of another form of entertainment, and it was a little bit taboo and a little like kind of risky. I think parts of my husband and I were kind of like, what the hell are we doing? This is kind of crazy. So I think that stirred some of it. And there was like an adrenaline factor there of sharing things that you shouldn't share. And so that definitely is kind of what I think kept that going. Of course, obviously there was became a lot of financial interest involved in it, and that was in itself warranted attention. I mean, especially as you have money like that coming in, it definitely was like, okay, this deserves some of our time. But I think initially, yeah, it was just very kind of just liberating a little bit, especially to be 37 at the time or what have you at my age and having that attention and kind of dominating that content created world that you wouldn't think someone my age or what have you would fit into that or be able to be successful in that. I think that too was a little bit of a game. It was a little bit like that's kind of fun. And so, yeah.
So, kind of as a follow up, what moved you from OnlyFans and the income that you were getting there to then transitioning into wet space?
Yeah, so the way that that came about was actually, I mean, I have to rewind a year ago. My knowledge of crypto at that time was, I think I owned some Dogecoin, was nothing significant. I may have had a trust wallet downloaded.
That was the best one to own in a way.
Yeah, it was very, very novice, like not really any background in crypto. But right at the height of when I really started to make in some big, big bucks on OF is when OnlyFans made their announcement that they were going to ban adult content on the platform. And I remember thinking, dang it, I just left my job. We're making all this money. Like, are you kidding me? It was just kind of like a dagger, It's like, wow, this was all for nothing. And so that's where it got me thinking is like, why the heck would they want to cut off their funnel? I mean, they're making billions of dollars off us. And it didn't make sense to me. And so I started to figure out that, you know, the banks really were largely in part were the driving force behind some of those decisions that platforms were having to make. And so that naturally led to me how do you get rid of the banks? And crypto came out like a knight in shining armor. And so I kind of looked around and watched other projects. I was surprised to see, oh, there is adult projects. And I was like, okay, so I'm not the only one on this that thinks, that we should do something about this, that, Bitcoin or any type of crypto should be married with the adult industry. And at that point, I watched all these projects and started to really educate myself on just tokenomics and volatility and how these things work. And I realized that most of the people that were doing this, or most projects that were adult related, were just coming out with coins, raking in all this cash up front, and then just promising to build a platform that was not there. And I was like, they're missing the mark. That's not what this is about. Crypto could be a real solution towards, for one, stability for creators long term, and then anonymity for fans. And that's whenever I met with two other business partners, and we started to talk about, couldn't we just make a platform where we could accept all cryptos that we can get, smart contracts on? And sure enough, that's what we started to do. And we realized very quickly these other projects would fail just due to the nature of volatility. And so then it just became like this entrepreneur side of me, which has always lived there. I look back at my life and think about all the little projects and different entrepreneur startup things that I had done on very small level. But it just showed like, this is kind of where my real passion and driving force is. And I think that entrepreneur side of me also is very much why my own OnlyFans career was so successful in the beginning, because of the way that I think. And so it was a very natural transition, although they seem miles apart in terms of, running an OF to being an entrepreneur and a CEO. It was very much in line because the way that I have looked at my OF from the beginning was like a business, and I treated it that way. So this was just another business venture. And it also gave me that peace of mind and security. I wanted that control. So that's really how I came into, the whole reasoning and the purpose behind Wet Space. And especially after talking with a lot of my fans who really desired that anonymity, because I realized I wasn't the only one being held to a stigma or, heavily criticized. My fans were too, being called simps or being called this or that because they consume my content. And that broke my heart. And so that made me feel like, no, they need a place too. Like there's a problem. Crypto was solving two problems at once. And I thought, this is a game changer. And that's truly where the passion came behind building it.
So, aside from Wet Space not having a token and the platform accepting crypto, what separates it from other platforms that provide adult entertainment content?
Well, I think, me being a top creator and creating the site, designing it, basically, I telling my dev team, we need this, we need this, we need that. I'm designing it. It's definitely got more tools for a creator to run their business. And again, I've always looked at this as a business. So I'm talking about different features and tools that allow you to reach a larger audience, like a discovery feature, algorithms that are put in place, different systems within the platform that will help the creator ultimately make more money. And so I think that in itself is something that you don't see OnlyFans put a lot of time and energy into, which is just baffles me. I still don't, to this day, don't understand like why they don't. They rarely update their platform. It's very generic. It's not they don't put a lot of time into that UI. And so that is one part. And then again, the anonymity factor, which you stated outside of the crypto part. But I think although the stability is important for creators, that anonymity factor is really important. And it's something that really sets us apart, because there's no one else doing it like this. And on top of that, like when I think about features, we have like a storefront so that you don't, you can post your content for sale as a little storefront on your profile, which is something OF does not offer. So that's very, very cool as well.
When you speak about being anon for creators and for customers or consumers, what do you mean by that? I'm not familiar with OnlyFans. I don't have an account. So talk to me about the process. Like if I wanted to go and pay for OnlyFans, I think I need to use my credit card and registered address, so on and so forth. But that all seems private to me unless someone's intercepting my mail. So
Hmm.
when you talk about there's a need for consumers and creators, some of them want to be anon. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit? I have no clue.
So first, I should make sure that I'm stating this correctly. It says creators are not anonymous on the platform, and that, I mean, you can have a fake username and such, but you have to be KYC'd as a creator. We have to verify that you're of age. That's just to protect for sex trafficking. And that's a law. Like, we have to do that. So the creators necessarily aren't anonymous. There's not much difference from the creator perspective than OF in terms of anonymity. But for the buyer, the reason why this is so important is when you go to sign up on OnlyFans as a fan, you have to put in your credit card, your ID. You have to put in all your information. Now, like you said, they have that, nobody needs to know. But here's where the problem lies: is every time you make a purchase or charge on your credit card statements or your bank statements, it will state OnlyFans. So you go to buy a house and they want to see 3 months bank statements. You go to apply for a loan. Your wife, if this is something you do without her knowing, there's no way to hide that. And you think about how often you truly need those statements. CPAs, it's not even just that they go through your stuff. So when you think about the stigma that they get of, "Oh, why are you paying for porn when it's free elsewhere?" They can't hide it at that point. And many of them would try to use gift cards on the site, do everything in their power, because I think some of the other thing is, some people are on OnlyFans consuming content, maybe that's heavily fetish or something they're very embarrassed of.
Mm,
It's not just
mhm.
traditional content. And so with wet space, how it's different is you literally could connect your wallet, your trust wallet, your MetaMask, Coinbase wallet, and nobody knows who you are. And nobody's going to see anything on your credit card statements except maybe that you transferred some money to Coinbase or, what have you. So it just provides that level. I mean, you could be the president of the United States on the platform and nobody would know. Like, just hooking up a wallet, there's really no identification with that. So that, and what we've seen is a flood of users coming and stating they're so happy because they've wanted to maybe consume this content, but it's never been worth it to them because they would have to, go at the risk of exposing on their statements and stuff. There's a large community of people that want anonymity. It's a private thing for some, and they don't want, everybody to be able to see that they consume that. So that's really what makes Wet Space stand out. It really is.
You mentioned earlier that even the president of the U.S. could use your platform and be anonymous. Is that a subtle wink and a nod that Joe Biden is a confirmed subscriber to Wetspace?
No, I would not confirm nor deny if he was on the platform because I respect anonymity. So it's just an analogy, but no, he might be. Never know.
Exactly. So we are just speaking a little bit about how the end user, the consumer of the content, is protected by the anonymity provided as it relates to their bank accounts. But earlier you were mentioning how the creators are also affected because they, on many of these platforms, cannot remain anonymous when it comes to their bank accounts. And you had mentioned that part of the reason that a site like OnlyFans had initially pushed back against adult content creation on the platform was because of pressure from the banks. Do you know why this is? Why are banks going after the adult industry in particular?
There's a lot of theories of why. I mean, I think there's the first and foremost, the obvious, which is, it's a moral, ethical thing that, they don't want to have involvement in that. And obviously, if you're a platform like OnlyFans and you accept Visa and MasterCard, then they are somewhat facilitating that. So there's that part. But I don't think that's really the overall. I think there is some validity to and some justification that, this is a high risk industry, just as gambling is, where there's probably a lot of chargebacks. And so it's something that banks maybe don't want to be involved in. I can respect that. I think it goes deeper than that because it just seems as though it's on such a high level and it's across all platforms and everywhere. And I don't really know. I have my own little thoughts of how powerful the porn industry is. And when you look back at the history of porn and you look about the westward expansion and just how sex work has truly pioneered a lot of things. And it's people can get rich very quickly doing so. And it does give you some, well, money gives you some level of power. And so sometimes I wonder if it's just they understand that just how powerful this industry can be. And if they don't keep it at bay, then that's just more over powerful people, I guess. I don't know. That might be like really conspiracy, but this industry's pioneered a lot of tech and a lot of things. It's really impressive when you look back. I mean, it's a basic need for people, whether you say sex or you say porn. I mean, this is a basic need for people. And so it's something that has the potential to get, very profitable very quick, as we did see with the OnlyFans. They skyrocketed into billions. But I think the moral ethical component is there. I do know it is from the banks as the driving force. And these platforms really get the bad rap for it, but it's not really their fault. They are like, dude, if we don't accept this, if we don't do what they're saying, then we can't accept Visa MasterCard, which means we don't get paid. I actually talked to the Coinbase CEO at VCon, Gary V's VCon, and I asked him point blank, like, your crypto, why are you banning adult content transactions with Coinbase? And he said to me, it's not us. He's like, it's JP Morgan Chase. It's the banks. And he looked me straight in the face. He goes, I'm telling you, he goes, this runs deep. And that stuck with me because I'm like, they've got a hold of crypto. And that's scary, in that sense. Now, that's just Coinbase as a platform, their actual site, not Coinbase wallet. Obviously, that's third party. There's nothing really there. But the terms and conditions of Coinbase, you cannot trade with financially, to make profit off of adult content. And that's just them as a business. I mean, they would have no bank if they didn't follow along with that.
Yeah, I think that's really important that you bring that up. As crypto becomes more mainstream, becomes more regulated, these big financial institutions and these big players and powers and influences are getting more and more involved in taking more and more control over the space. And, Ray and I go back and forth all the time about like the promises of crypto versus the realities of crypto. And can crypto truly live up to the potential and promises that its hard chorus of believers say that it can? And that's part of why we wanted to start this podcast, to have these sorts of conversations. So, I mean, if you're a content creator and the banks won't work with you, and even the exchanges now, which are more and more becoming like banks, are starting to not work with you, what's the solution? How do you get paid? Do you have to self-host your wallets? And how do you sell that cryptocurrency to pay your rent?
Mm-hmm.
What's the process like for a creator who you're trying to onboard into Web3 and crypto, having to deal with these same restrictions and roadblocks?
Yeah, I think the first roadblock that we have experienced is people looking at crypto as like the stock market or an investment. They do not look at it as a transactional, and that it can be used as a currency. And it's very, very effective in that way. And I think people that are really deep in crypto, that's the way we always intended it to be. Whereas, these NFTs and all these big projects came out and things like that, where, it started to look more like as an unstable investment type thing. And so that's our first roadblock. But secondly, when a creator, in terms of how a creator actually connects their wallet, whether that be Coinbase wallet, Trust Wallet, MetaMask, to our platform and are paid in that, there is some degree of risk to volatility. Absolutely. When you're paid, if somebody buys $100 video from you, what we encourage people to do is to cash out right away if you need that, because at that point it's mainly stable coins. We do accept ETH, but it's stable coins. And so those, are not going to change overnight. It's fairly smooth. You're paid instantly. There's no chargebacks either, which is amazing. That's a big problem for creators. And that's the part that gets me, is there's no way for chargebacks with this. So that's why I debunked the excuse of the banks that, well, it's a high risk, and there could be chargeback. Well, in our case, there's not. So shouldn't be an issue, but yet it still is. And so, yeah, that's really, in a nutshell, how the fan connects their wallet, the creator connects their wallet, the money transfers instantly. The creator can cash out immediately, or the creator can wait a while.
So as a business owner and operator, is that what you do to stay kind of revenue positive and to manage your capital and operational expenses? How do you avoid being wrecked when you're a crypto native platform?
So for us as a crypto platform, WetSpace takes 15%. So I think this is what you're asking, but once the money comes into our wallet, we actually do have an actual bank as well. And so that the money goes into our company bank account at that point. There is, again, a degree of risk for us too, that, some of that money may fluctuate, in some sense up or down, which that's why, we're pretty consistent on making sure we're cashing things out in order to maintain that value. From a WetSpace perspective, that's how we do that. And It was difficult for us to find banks. A lot of banks turned us down, and we did finally find one, but we had a lot of banks turn us down. So we even as a crypto platform ourselves kind of were hitting those roadblocks of, there's been stories of creators having their bank accounts shut down because, OnlyFans was on their bank statements. And so that's scary too, which is another thing that's really awesome about this, about Wet Space, is that some of that is being solved as well. You don't, it's more discreet. You don't have that on your statements.
What do you think it'll take to get the banks to play nice with crypto platforms and to play nice with adult content creators in those platforms? Will there ever be a peaceful symbiosis, or is it always going to be this battle between the two?
I would think of any time in our century here that this would be the time you'd think there's so much acceptance of everything, but for some reason they are just hardcore on this. I don't think it's coming anytime soon. If anything, I feel like it's tightening up. I do feel like it's kind of a band-aid what's happening with OF right now. And, they're a billion-dollar company that wants to go public, and the public and porn is just not going to mix. And so even an example would be like Playboy. So Playboy has a platform called Centerfold now, and you cannot post the type of content on there that you can on other like OF. Can't have any sexual acts. Playboy is a publicly traded company. So what that looks like is probably very similar to what OF would eventually look like. And I think that's the level of comfort, the level of acceptability, I should say, that the banks have put out there. Is I think they're fine with the nudes. They have a problem with the selling of actual content. I wish we knew the real answers of what the driving force was behind this, because I feel like sex workers in this industry in general would be delighted to help solve it. But I feel like some of it does kind of with sex trafficking. Obviously there's with any industry, but this industry in particular with sex trafficking is a concern, and they don't want to be a part of something that could be also facilitating that. That's something with Wet Space that we've really had to put a lot of time and attention to, and we have a lot of attorneys to make sure that, we are mindful of that, because that is a problem. That part I understand. That part I totally agree. I don't want to see that occur. But that's what brings it back to, as you look at like Twitter and Facebook, who are some of the largest, social media outlets that have sex trafficking, and there's really no judgment there and no shutdown. I mean, how come Twitter can be very dark if you're on the wrong side of it? And I just don't understand how that's in app stores and how that's not heavily picked at the way that the platforms get. So there's a lot of double standards. And that's why I do believe there's more to it than just the sheer fact of the excuses that they like to put on the forefront. I don't see it changing anytime soon. I do see crypto as the future. I think it's our only option. Will they make it hard for us as we have things like Coinbase and stuff tighten up? Absolutely, but there's some parts of crypto they just don't have control over, especially like with wallets and putting your money there. If we can have crypto more widely accepted more as a currency, that alone would solve that issue, which might be some of the reason why we haven't seen that. So the next 10 years, in my opinion, will be telling and so interesting to see how things actually pan out, not only for the adult industry, but for crypto in general.
Definitely.
I totally agree. From your view, is there still exploitation in the adult entertainment industry? And how do you think platforms like Wet Space can clean up the adult entertainment industry and make the situation safer and more equitable for creators?
Yeah, I think there's definitely an argument there that the rise of OF and these, various porn sites outside of either the dark web or Pornhub have definitely made it easier for there to be financial gain off of human trafficking. Unfortunately, I mean, obviously that I would not deny. For Wet Space in particular, what the law requires you to do in terms of KYC, and KYC meaning know your customer, making sure they're above 18, making sure that the photo matches the person, that the content matches the photo, and that everything appears in that way. Whatspace is going like 2 to 3 steps above what they're asking us to do. And so a lot of our attorneys said, this is just really more minimal effort for you to do these extra things, but down the road, say, they want more stricter record keeping, you're prepared for that. I'm smart enough to know that not only an adult platform, but a crypto adult platform certainly provides a perfect medium for something like that to occur, even on a larger scale. And so we not only have moderation in place, we are really, really moderating content and things of that nature, and making sure that, like I said, the creators are not anonymous on our platform. To us, at least, we have, identification. We know who these people are. Even things such as like having couples, we are making sure that before you can even upload a video, you have to have written consent, and that person has to actually be KYC too. So it might be a little overkill, but at the same time, it's like, we want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence. And if we ever are faced with, some kind of problem of that nature, then we can say we're doing, we went above and beyond.
Right. So, in terms of financial exploitation, is wet space more equitable for creators than other platforms? Like, I had heard Mia Khalifa was a really popular performer, and maybe 2 years ago she came out and said, I only made like $100,000 off of my content, even though it's worth like 8 million bucks for Pornhub.
Mhm.
Are you familiar with the industry to the extent that is there still that sort of like financial exploitation taking place? And is that like a mission of Wet Space to kind of level the playing field for performers?
Well, I think one of the very reasons why OF grew to such popularity is because it's pretty dark. When you start hearing the stories from traditional porn stars who are in with production companies such as like Banger Bros or what have you, it was definitely financial and sexual exploitation. And they have some really interesting stories. And that's how the industry just was. That was the norm. You go to a shoot, you get paid 3 grand for that shoot, which seemed like amazing money. But then that production company went on to make 10 to 20 million on that video on the life of it. I mean, I think to this day, there's still videos that are being sold of certain creators from years ago. And so then you put something in place like these platforms for like an OnlyFans, and it goes back into the creators, like their control. And it's like, holy cow, I can make my own video and make my own money, and I don't have to give anyone any of it. That was a huge change for the industry. And you even see traditional porn stars now who are either able to demand a crap ton more money from those companies, when they go do a shoot, or they're just choosing to produce their own content and sell it themselves. They're making far more money now. So what space falls right in line with that. The creators have control of their content. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do, sleep with certain people you don't want to do, which was very, very prevalent within the traditional porn industry prior to the rise of all these fan sites. So, in that sense, we fall right in line to helping provide that financial independence and independence of your content. And I think that's what's so amazing about these platforms in general, all of them, is that it really took some from a very unsafe situation. And you even think about like people who were escorts or stripping or on the streets. A lot of people don't look at the positives that these sites have brought to society, especially when OF made their announcement they were going to close down. I was reading a lot of stories of girls who were like, well, this is my industry, and I would probably go back to traditional sex work, which stripping could be quite dangerous, walking to your car in the parking lots. There's just a lot of that's been omitted. Why would you go strip for 4 hours in person when you could post one video on your online and make far more money? It's just right back to the creator, which is really, really powerful. It truly is powerful.
Before Jonathan hops into another question, do you have any data? What's the split like on male to female creators?
I don't know the exact percentage, but I will tell you there is a huge rise in male creators. It's not just your typical, well, there's a rise in all different types of creators for one. It's not just your typical busty blonde anymore. There's different ethnicities and there's different variations, and that's wonderful. But the male community is really coming up because I think, especially over the last decade, as we've become more like LGBTQ like friendly, like you have a lot more gay performers now who consuming that content, but there's also you have even a lot of straight males who are making content for gay males, which is interesting. That is actually really popular. A lot of very good looking guys that will create content and they're perfectly straight, but they know the people buying their content are not straight males. And so there's definitely a rise of that.
Hmm.
I've been watching it in the hip hop world actually, where one of the top creators on OnlyFans now is Tyga, #1 Billboard charting rapper. And I don't remember when he made the switch, but I know that he is making content on OnlyFans, either solo or with women, and he's making like tons and tons of money.
Oh yeah.
And there was a rapper named Blueface who had an OnlyFans
Hmm.
where he would bring on women. I don't know that he was doing anything sexual, but he would bring on women and they would do sexual things.
Yeah.
It just seems to be a move now. Like you build up an audience elsewhere on Instagram, through music,
Mhm.
elsewhere on social media. And at some point you realize like, damn, I can make a fuck ton of money
Mhm.
just putting out content like this. And they go for it.
Yeah, there's a little bit of darkness to some of that. You brought up a good point that I want to talk about. So there's a lot of males who have maybe a very large following and they start to really be able to capitalize off their following, and they aren't necessarily creating content, but they bring women on and basically sell their following. And this is where it gets a little sketch in this industry of kind of like, are these like virtual pimps? Because what's happening is they have this audience and these girls are desperate for this audience. And so they will do things, he may sell the content on his page and give them a little cut. But it starts to get a little dicey because it's like, well, it's her content if she had her own page, but she's really just using for the following. So I do see a lot of male pages like that, and I never feel great about it. I just feel like it's kind of a way for the males to tap in. And again, what was happening in the traditional porn industry kind of spilling over a little bit. And it's like kind of virtual pimping, but that is occurring. And it's not that it's like any type of trafficking. These women are certainly willing, but they're so desperate for that audience. And so like you said, rappers or people who have large following on social media don't even really need to make the content themselves. They just need to say, hey, do you want to post your stuff on my OnlyFans where I have so many people? And then they're making money off other creators in that way too. That I'm seeing a lot of. The management aspect of this is just sickens me. I actually want to do a full thing on
Sounds like pimping, to be honest.
it. Is. It 100% is. They're just preying on vulnerability and following. It's all about the following. People think, and I've just never had that method in my business. And I'm grateful that I was smart enough to realize that in the beginning because I had a lot of management agencies reach out to me and it felt very predatory. And it is. And it's happening rampantly.
I think that's also a great point that even if the rev share on the side of the platform and whoever is putting the content out there is equitable and anonymous or KYC'd or whatever the appropriate case is, that doesn't stop these virtual pimp type people who are bringing on women for content. There's nothing in place. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's nothing that you as a platform or OnlyFans as a platform can do to ensure that the other people featured in the video are also getting an equitable revenue share.
Yes, that is a big thing. Obviously, there is a way for us to any video that has more than one party in it or not the party of the account holder. Obviously, we as a platform are making them have to upload. The best way to go about that is have that person become a creator on Whitespace, even if they don't want an account. And then that way you can tag them. That way we know this is that person who's already been KYC. But when it comes to like the financial of whose wallet is it going into from a crypto perspective, and even on OF, that creator's being paid out in that bank account. But if he's featuring 20 girls on his page, how do we know he's actually paying them out? And that's dicey. And I'm really surprised that OF has not shut that down. They certainly have made it where you have to tag the other creator in there. So they do have that situation now. But you don't know in terms of payment. He could be posting these just because you tagged him doesn't mean that that particular person's ever paying that creator. So on Wetspace, we've actually implemented something to help with that. So when you upload a video, say it's you and two other girls, it's like three girls or what have you. Every girl has to be KYC, tag, tag, tag. But when you upload it, we can actually split the percentages. So I could say 10% goes to her, give her 30% of the profits, give her 20, up to 100%. So we actually make it where the minute that video is uploaded, it's who's getting the percentage of what. So if it's a even split, then you could put 33 and a third, all three. And then what happens is when that video is sold, 33 and a third immediately goes to that other creator's wallet. It literally puts it in each wallet. So super slick. And that does solve that problem because if I was a creator and somebody tagged me in a video and uploaded it, I have no way of ever knowing, am I going to get the money from that? But in our case, you do because it sends a message to that creator and says, do you want to accept this? It's set at 33%. Is this correct? And the creator has to push accept. So really slick. And that's something we implemented just because of this exact reason of these sites where, they're doing what they do. I have creators top of mind, Jimmy Smacks being one of them. He has a lot of models on his page, and I'm not saying he's predatory. I don't know his situation. I do know that his entire page features other women. So I don't know what his arrangement is, if he pays them before or after, but there's really no way to ever track that. But with Wet Space, you could split it right there on the video as it's uploaded, which is amazing. And that's for the life of it as it sells. If it sells a year from now, 33 and a third is still going to go in someone else's account. So super, super protective of that.
So I do want to ask you about NFTs. I know that Wetspace uses them on the website, and we hear a lot of people from all areas of the creator economy talk about how NFTs are game changing, how they're going to forever change the way that creators are able to monetize, the residual payments down the line. So how do you work in NFTs into Wetspace? So are these videos being sold as NFTs? And then are these profit splits, are they written into the smart contract? Or do you have a different system for distributing content, and NFTs are just an optional extra if you want it to be your favorite scene to be memorialized in the blockchain?
Yeah, so we haven't fully launched our NFT portion because just that, we don't really know how the structure we want to do it. What I believe in with NFTs is the utility of NFTs. I think that there's a couple different ways in what the NFT actually offers. So right now on Wetspace, you upload a video, it's just for sale on a store. It doesn't have to be an NFT. The way that I, as a personal creator, envision NFTs, let's just apply it to my business, is, let's say, I did a collab with another girl, or I did my first anal scene, something that I don't ever plan on making a lot more of. That would be something cool to put as an NFT, because it's something that's very specific and never going to be probably replicated in any way. And so as a creator, you could do that. There's also, you could maybe make NFTs for like annual passes, or maybe meet and greets, like in terms of like, not that kind of meet and greet, but like just basic other offerings that you could give. And like maybe to your NFT holders, they get your calendar every year or whatever it may be. I think that's how I envision in this industry. But I think, especially with collabs, if someone like myself, let's say I actually did like a scene with Mia Malkova, like that's freaking huge. Like she's amazing. Like if I ever did that, like I would want to make that an NFT. Why? Because it's cool, it's collectible. That's that way. And in terms of how we would do it, we would obviously, Wetspace would have some portion, and then we would customize it where the creator can set up their own, residual value, or what they want to make on residuals down the road and that kind of thing. But we haven't really fine-tuned that. And I think right now there's just not a lot of great attention on NFTs, because it was so much everybody's buying JPEGs, and it's just very hard to change the mindset of the general population of how amazing the blockchain is, and how many uses there really is, and how creative you can get with it, not only in this industry, but the music industry, real estate. I mean, there's so many things that the blockchain is going to be a huge part of. So for us, we're kind of right now, we're focusing very platform first, and just getting the platform and really the concept of utilizing crypto as a currency. And then we will move on to the NFTs. But that's how we envision it, is really letting the creator decide what perks they want to offer it, what they want to do with their NFT. It may not, they may want to make every single piece of content an NFT, and that would be they could totally do that. Really, it's going to be very much in the creator's hands of how that's done.
How crypto native are your users and your creators, and are they asking for that NFT kind of support and for that to be built out?
Well, right now, again, with the negative perception of crypto, there's not a lot of interest in that. But I also feel like a lot of our users are not incredibly crypto savvy. They know that it's smart, but they want to know more. And they're kind of like the boat I was in a year ago. So again, that's why a lot of our focus has becoming into educating about our product. And like on Shark Tank, these are the product the projects no one ever wants to invest in, because you really have to provide a lot of education up front. And I think it's not really our job to do that, but we're going to, because it's the next 3 years from now, I would hope everyone has a wallet on their phone type thing. But right now it's just not that way. So we're going to do our part and educate not only for the adult industry, but just crypto in general and its uses and how it functions. And that's important to us to do that. But yeah, as far as the interest in NFTs, I mean, people have asked about them. I think creators have a lot of great ideas, but they know just right now there's just such a bad rap for them. until that kind of blows over, I don't think it's really in anyone's time interest to pour into an NFT project. It's also, there's a lot that are very jaded by a lot of these other adult projects that were heavily NFT based. And what happened to that? A lot of those people really promoted that through their communities, and their communities got very ticked off and very angry because those projects failed, which they all will fail, in my personal opinion, because of the volatility. Creators want to get paid and cash out. Like, creators are making content to get a check to pay their rent. And that's how it is. And so if you have a token that is constantly being drained every week or every month, there's never going to be able to hold the value of that coin. And the investor side of people are really ticked off about that. And so a lot of projects are failing, and we're watching them fly off. I don't even think there's hardly, a year ago, there was about 100 of these adult tokens out there. Now they're all in the gutter because of this very reason. It's not the model. It was the wrong way to go. So a lot of creators do not trust NFTs because of that. And so I'm grateful they're even trusting the way that we're doing things and kind of trying to help them understand, like, we are so different than that. This is literally a currency.
How do you build Wetspace up, being a crypto native platform? How do you build it up so that it's well known enough, user friendly enough, the education is there enough, where a big creator, a big OnlyFans creator, could move over to Wetspace and make just as much money and have just as big of a fan base as they would if they were on OnlyFans?
So first, right now, our message is not for creators to move off their OF. I myself have my OF. I'll continue to have my OF because that's our fiat platform. Wetspace right now, we're marketing as is your crypto platform. We've had a lot of people ask us, why don't you keep your crypto but also accept fiat? And it's something we've looked into. I have strong opinions on it in that sense. It would definitely make business much easier right now. Obviously, people are far more comfortable, like you said, with OF, but even more comfortable with putting in a credit card for content than they are hooking up a wallet. And so there's a lot there. But Westspace is definitely ahead of its time. There's no doubt in my mind we are probably 2 to 3 years too early for this right now. And we never, even going in, my business partners and I always had the right mindset that that is not our goal, is to just like boom, blow this up and get like rich instantly. It's like not what it's about. For us, we know it's going to take some time. I also kind of sit back because I personally think what's happening with OnlyFans is a band-aid, and that they will eventually clean things up, and that's going to boot a crap ton of people off of OF. And what are they going to do? Are they going to run to Fansly? Well, then Fansly 5 years from now is probably going to have the same problem. So that's where we're going to be the knight in shining armor, because here we are, and you don't need to worry about driving your traffic away anymore, because that's hard for creator. You can try to say, okay, I'm going here, like everyone did when OF went down, but that you lose people in that. You're never going to get 100% conversion. And so right now, what space is really, our focus is on educating on why this is stable, and the crypto side. We don't consider ourselves direct competition with OF because we don't accept fiat. They have something we don't. Obviously we don't want to be in that game. On top of that, I think the other part about it is our platform has got some really unique features. For instance, we are very similar to an Instagram in terms of the algorithm and our discovery. One of the things about OF that is impressive people that are successful on there is you have to drive all your own traffic on OF. There is no discovery feature. You're not going to hang out in OF and find people. Like, that's not how this works. On Wetspace, you have a discovery feed very similar to like an Instagram. It's like if you start looking up cats, you can guarantee for the next week you are going to have cat and kitten videos throughout your entire discovery feed.
I am well aware, trust me.
I've been there. I bought a Jeep a year ago, and oh my God, it's like I still get fucking Jeep abs. But so that's one thing. So on our platform, when the creator signs up and when the fans sign up, you have this little system where you kind of tag your interest, like maybe you're into blondes, maybe you're into Asians, you have certain things. And so we feed each user in the discovery feed content we think they would like. If they go to Allie Ray's page and buy a video of her and her husband, well, maybe they're into couples. So let's feed them more profiles that have couples content. So we have an algorithm that is only going to get better with time as the users, we learn more about our users, that will feed them content, which not only makes it awesome for the creator of, you can actually grow on this platform. If you didn't drive any traffic, your content is in the discovery if you're posting. So that is unique. That is something OF doesn't have. That is something Fancy doesn't have. And we believe it's going to be a better user experience, and creators are going to feel like they have more opportunity on our platform. So you are correct. There are nowhere near as many users willing to pay in crypto than there are willing to pay with credit card. That's a given. Like, obviously, we'll never capture all that, but you really don't need. If we capture 10% of what OnlyFans is doing, we are a mega platform. And most of these other platforms are a small fraction of what OF is doing and are doing very, very well. And so that's kind of like our realistic outlook on what space. And again, knowing that we're a little ahead of our time. But the great thing is crypto is becoming more and more widespread and used. I mean, my sister who knew nothing about crypto, now knows about crypto. Like, people are starting to hear about it. And I think that only helps our project better because it's just people getting more comfortable. It's not just some fairy tale thing that was up there. There's real money in crypto. And so for us, that's where we really have our focus, is really that kind of that long haul, and that, or, some form of an acquisition or something like that. Like, it's not, we know we're not going to just blow up and be the next OF. OF will always be OF and the biggest until they decide to ban content, period. I don't think that'll ever change. I do feel like it's a band-aid right now, and that day may come. And when it does, people will look for alternatives, and that's where we'll be very well established and put together and kind of convenient for that.
Mm-hmm. So to date, have you gotten any major or well-known creators to move over to Wetspace?
Well, we have a lot of creators with very, very large followings right now. I would say right now our goal would be having more, like, and my recruitment efforts are just like diverse creators. We seem to have, one creator, let's say you are of the Asian descent and you have a lot of smaller creators that follow you. Well, then they see you go to Wetspace, they all kind of want to go. So you get these pockets of types that we, love more males, love a stronger gay community would be amazing. Like, just various types of creators I think would be great, so that when people come to the platform, there is a lot of different stuff, people having in fetish communities and what have you. And this week in particular, we have a couple pretty good sized creators that are going to be coming on that I'm very excited about. That will definitely bring more diversity to the platform too, which is great. It's a weird position for me to be the business, owner and running the business, and also a creator myself. And I don't want to be, I know how annoying it is to get those salesy pitches in your DMs. And I have really tried to be strategic in the way that I present this, because I truly am just trying to help creators. Like, you're missing out on a ton of money. Like, there's a lot of people on this platform, the hits we're getting, that want to pay in crypto, and you have no crypto option. Like, you accept Visa and MasterCard, but you don't accept crypto. And that's crazy to me, that creators from a business perspective don't understand. Like, it's really not that much of your time to throw your content, your pay-per-views at minimal up, put it for sale on there, because you can be discovered in our platform. When I go to the sales, it's more like, hey, you're missing out on money, not this huge, like, come to my platform type thing.
Mhm.
I have to do a little bit of educating. So we just kind of are starting to phase out of our beta. We're in beta right now. And so we're taking feedback from everyone. We're making updates and changes. So I've been a little bit careful too about what level creators I've truly brought on, because I know once a major creator comes on there, it's going to bring an immense amount of people. And the last thing we want is a first impression, to be something where it glitches our system out or something goes wrong. So we're really going through like a lot of tests right now. We have trying to break the system, I guess you should say. And some things will pop up and we're like, wow, I'm so glad we tested that we wouldn't have thought of that. And so I think until I feel like we're really, all right, we're ready for someone, as big as a Mia Malkova to come on here and bring her hundreds of thousands of people, like, we can handle it. That's kind of, those are steps and things like that. We're just trying to be a little more mindful of that.
Right. Now, what I get from you is that you're focused on laying infrastructure, the infrastructure of the future. And in your view, some of the titans of industry are going to be forced to pivot in a way which will lead to them losing subscribers and creators. And what you want is Wetspace to be there as a seamless option for transition. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's a long-term plan. It's not a short-term. We're very level-headed. I'm very fortunate to partner with two other people who are also very amazing. We all have our own skill sets. I understand the creator side, they understand crypto and the business side, and it's very it's a really, really a good dynamic. And I think, that's why we're going to do so well. We're very, very mindful of long-term quality versus just, let's rake in a bunch of money type. We're all very well off ourselves, so it never was the initial motivation.
So my final question would be, I'm wondering if you have any final thoughts or anything you'd like to leave our audience with, maybe for somebody who is still a bit skeptical about the adult entertainment industry and crypto and how they can work well together, somebody who's skeptical to switch over from an OnlyFans, or someone who just doesn't believe that crypto can really bring any solutions or fixes to this industry, what would be the one thing that you would kind of want them to walk away from this conversation having taken in?
Yeah, I think for the creator side of things, from a sheer business perspective, like if you want to grow, you should have your content everywhere. That's a brainer. But I think stability, I think a lot of people don't realize how much this is truly entrepreneurship in a business for creators. And stability is key. You'd hate to build something up that you could be taken away from you. And right now, and every minute that we're on OF, that could be shut down tomorrow. And we had a 30-day notice before. So I really, really stress that creators of how stability truly needs to be top of mind for them, and that you should always have your backup. Not asking everyone to jump ship, but you should have a back. You should be protecting your business, and any business you have, there's a threat, you want to prepare for that. And so that's one thing. As far as like the stigma of the industry, or I guess even the stigma of crypto being very in itself is considered predatory and really hypey and what have you and trendy, is really educate yourself on the full function of crypto and where and the ways that it is going, the blockchain in particular is going to have its place in all different industries, but more importantly in the adult industry. It does really provide a solution for anonymity for fans, and it is a private thing that maybe people don't want to have made public. And so I feel blessed to be able to provide that medium to help someone in that situation, but also, like I said, on the creator side for stability. So I think there's just a lot to learn about crypto. I guess where I'm getting at here, I'll stop rambling, is that crypto is not just about NFTs. I think people hear the word crypto, they think NFT, and it's like, oh, wow. No, there's so much more. And transactionally and as a currency, freedom of a currency, it's incredible. And it definitely will change a lot of industries, even outside of the adult. And so people should be ready for that.
And for anybody who enjoyed this conversation, was moved by what you just said, or just wants to follow you and hear more about what you and Wetspace are up to, where can they do so?
Yeah, so my website, theellieray.com, has links to all my socials. And of course, it has even links to Wetspace, but wetspace.com is a good place to start as well if you want to learn about what we're doing. I also love getting general feedback. I have a lot of people who are very big in the crypto community. They want to talk to me about different projects. And I encourage you to message us, talk to us about it. We'd love to hear it. Things that you love, things that you hate about the site. It's all very important to us, and you're not going to hurt anyone's feelings. And so definitely bring your perspectives. We appreciate it. And yeah, so theellieray.com will get you pretty much everywhere you want to get.
All right. Well, thanks for your time. I look forward to meeting you at conferences, crypto conferences, at a brewery someday.
Yes, so excited about that for sure.
The Agenda is hosted and produced by me, Ray Salmond.
And by me, Jonathan DeYoung. You can listen and subscribe to The Agenda at cointelegraph.com/podcasts or on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever else podcasts are found.
If you enjoyed what you heard, rate us and leave a review. You can find me on Twitter at Horace Hughes, HORUSHUGHES.
And I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and just about everywhere else at MadDopeMadic. That's MadDopeMadic.
Be sure to follow Cointelegraph on Twitter and Instagram at Cointelegraph.